to record this session. And mostly it's just kind of as a safety net in case anyone has any brilliant ideas. We can go back later and write it down. And really, this is kind of the starting line for the economic development for Trinity County rather than the finish line. So, you know, the ideas are just that. They're ideas to discuss and think about, and suggestions. We have a lot of material to cover today. And to help set the table, I just wanted to highlight the connection between design and economics. As planners, we primarily focus on land use. You know, what activities are allowed where, and what the process is to allow these activities to operate. But the design of a community is also a really big part of planning, and design has real impacts on economics. And we don't have to look too far for proof of this. You know, there's a real strong connection between design and economics. And that connection is why so much time and thought and investment is made into packaging a product or advertising a service. And, you know, when we look at the products that are out there on the market, many products spend more time and money on the packaging and advertising than they do on the actual product itself. So I think that there's a really good lesson for us to learn there as planners and decision makers. That's probably, you know, the designs of our towns and our communities, that has a direct connection with people's comfort and willingness to spend. Ooh, I'm getting a little feedback. Hopefully that's not too bad for everyone else. You know, there's a large number of attractive destinations. Hey, Cooper, would you mind muting your microphone? I think maybe some feedback's coming through your mic. You know, there's a large number.
My fan off too. Let me see if that'll work.
There's a large number of attractive destinations and activities a neighborhood or community can provide, and the pedestrians and customers know about. The higher the likelihood of a healthy and sustainable local economy. It's probably why maps and directories and flyers and magazines, advertisements, they're so popular with tourists. They want to know like what's going on and where they can go. And throughout this presentation, you'll hear a mix of research and recommendations kind of as we're going through the material. We've definitely separated both on the takeaway material, and we'll provide that at the end of the presentation. And we'll also provide some more resources and areas that you can go to learn more about the research. So let's go ahead and jump right in. This is our research team. And, you know, we're all dealing with COVID and the pandemic, and our team's no different. We're kind of on the opposite side. There's been a lot of doom and gloom talked about the pandemic, and at one point, each of the interns maybe faced some of that, as a lot of the companies that had offered internships for the summer of 2020, they closed them out. And Sonoma State requires all graduating students to have an internship for graduation. So I had no plans of having a program for interns this summer, but Azine came to us through a buddy of mine who's a professor at Sonoma State. And before I turned around, we had 4 interns joining us. So we've been, you know, very organic in how all of the research unfolded, but I really like where we've gotten over the summer. So to kind of kick us off, I'd just like to kind of go through each of our interns and do a quick introduction. So let's start with Azine.
Hi, my name is Azine. I go to Sonoma State University. I'm graduating in the spring of 2021. And my environmental interests, my environmental planning interests are adaptive reuse and gentrification.
All right, hey everyone. Hope my feedback issues been resolved now that I turned my fan off. I'm Cooper Atkinson, and I actually just graduated from Sonoma State a couple days ago because I did the summer semester, so that's pretty cool. I graduated with a degree in planning for sustainable communities, and I'm super interested in active transportation that increases walkability.
Hi, I'm Paul Skrabov. I'm a senior at Sonoma State. My interests include public policy and design.
Hi, I'm Deanna. I'm class of 2021, and I'm really interested in resilience planning and climate adaptation.
And I'll go ahead and introduce myself too. Scott Watkins, class of 2002 for undergrad with a focus in planning, and 2016 for graduate school with a master's in public policy and an MBA. My planning interests are design and public policy, and I see that Kelly Gant just joined us, so welcome. We're just finishing up introductions, and I think we're ready to talk about our presentation.
Scott, can I ask one question before you jump into that? Could I ask
Sure.
each of the interns to type into the chat box what your each of your focuses were? Because I kind of lost those, and it would be good to know they're a little overlap, but also a little bit unique.
Sure.
Thanks.
We do that right now.
You wanted us to share our interests?
Yeah, if you had a major focus and what your studies were, or if you just shared what your interests were, it may give some clarity with your presentation. Or it's just interesting. So thanks.
Okay, we've got replies from Cooper, from Paul,
One
and
second.
Azine, and I see Deanna's typing pretty quick over there. Great. Okay, Azine?
So over the summer, we've worked on a wide variety of projects to lead into this presentation. We're going to give a quick interview of the websites we developed, which include Civic Harmony, which is public art, NeighborhoodsLab, which is surveys, and Around Mills, which is the mapping of areas around Mills College using cluster mapping. We'll discuss our research on general plans and how we use the rural to urban transect to find a range of different types of jurisdictions. Then we'll provide a quick overview on the planning theory themes we saw between all jurisdictions. Finally, we help define a majority of the planning theories we found that are the foundation of our analysis and recommendations. This presentation is an introduction to our economic development policy recommendations, which we'll provide separately at the end of the presentation. All of these projects are reflected in this presentation.
Hi, so it's Paul speaking. And so I worked on the NeighborhoodsLab website. And NeighborhoodsLab is basically a pilot app project aimed at creating a process for data collection. NeighborhoodsLab has been tested in Oakland, San Anselmo, and Woodland. Here are a few screenshots of NeighborhoodsLab in action, showing data collection elements such as streetscape elements around San Anselmo area.
The Around Mills site that I designed takes the information from a survey and develops a database. Here's a screenshot of the database for Around Mills. It displays sun, shade, Wi-Fi, and other features of a spot. Here's the final data displayed in a cluster map. This map helps the students of Mills College know where to find things like whether a site has sun or shade. The map is interactive and displays the data in a visually appealing way once you click on the map icon.
All right, so this is Cooper, and the website that I created was for Civic Harmony. Civic Harmony creates interactive public art installations that use music and movement to produce a sense of community and well-being. Art installations such as these create destinations and add activities within neighborhoods and districts. They are great ways to bring people together in public spaces.
While building the website's really fun, a majority of our summer was actually spent researching general plans. So originally general plans only had 7 required elements, but as of 2013, a general plan guidance update by the Office of Planning Research added 6 new required elements, and those include greenhouse gas emissions reductions, climate adaptation, renewable energy, public health, infill development, and regional planning. All of these required elements are interrelated. In this diagram, we sought to map the relationships between these elements. The size of the text indicates the level of importance. The policies in bold have the largest drive related to influence of the built environment.
So in addition to the required general plan elements that were just covered, many communities chose to add from the list of optional elements. The highlighted elements are the ones that we think apply most to Trinity County, and our main focus was mostly on economic development.
The transect defines a series of zones that transition from sparse rural farmhouses to the dense urban core. We used the rural to urban transect to make sure we looked for jurisdictions similar to Trinity County in places that are more built out. Essentially, we wanted to look at economic development policy across this whole spectrum for interesting ideas that could help Trinity County strengthen the local economy. Trinity County is one of the few jurisdictions in California to have large areas that are in the T1 zone with small pockets of areas that are T4. Weaverville may be the only community that is in the T5 zone. We researched and reviewed 24 different jurisdictions in California, Oregon, and Washington. We looked for jurisdictions with similar per capita income, topography, and historic assets. These are the 20 jurisdictions we pulled the most from. During our research and weekly team calls, we learned about a number of planning theories and strategies that can help communities strengthen the local economy. The following slides are visualizations and quick summaries of economic development policies we found in our research that we recommend including in Trinity County's updated general plan.
All right, so as you can see on this slide, placemaking is a concept that encompasses many, many different parts. Placemaking is a very common theme we found in many jurisdictions' economic development elements as it bridges policy and actual neighborhood design. Placemaking inspires people to collectively reimagine and reinvent public spaces as the heart of every community. Placemaking is about adding elements to the buildings and sidewalk spaces to add depth, color, and complexity. Placemaking helps create active public spaces that promote people's health, happiness, and well-being. Communities with placemaking activities have stronger local economies because when people are happy and comfortable, they tend to spend more money on local businesses and attractions.
So parklets are a great placemaking strategy. A parklet is the extension of a sidewalk that provides more space and amenities for people using the street. Parklets are typically level with the existing sidewalk and the width of a parking space, and they can be used by restaurants, cafes, as extra outdoor seating and dining area. Public art is one of the most undervalued placemaking strategies, yet public art has the highest returns in investment in creating complexity within the built environment. Public art can help express the community's unique culture and history or celebrate its diversity. Public art can also create a sense of place with residents and visitors, promoting it on social media.
Walkability is the measure of how friendly an area is to pedestrians. It has health, environmental, and economic benefits. So cluster mapping describes the quantitative measurements of presence of clusters of information within a defined area. Cluster mapping has so far largely been pursued in advanced economies with robust statistical systems and national data collection agencies. As described by Azine, this is the map for Around Mills, which is a cluster map for Mills College students. So this is also another example of placemaking being mapped out in the Laurel district. The idea was to quickly identify where improvements were needed.
Some safety challenges that planners face relate to urban deterioration. Blight is when deterioration goes beyond deferred maintenance. In many communities, blighted areas constitute a serious physical and economic burden on the community that cannot reasonably be expected to be reversed or alleviated by private enterprise. The images in the last slide for the Laurel touched on improvements. The broken window theory is a theory that states that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disorder create an urban environment that encourages further crime. CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, is a strategy that was developed to help limit visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disorder. Sorry, I'm gonna wait for this plane. CEPTED's goal is to prevent crime by designing a physical environment that positively influences human behavior. The theory is based on 4 principles: natural access control, natural surveillance, territoriality, and maintenance. Placemaking is a key CEPTED strategy to increase safety by putting eyes on the street, which is when more people are out in a neighborhood or district and criminal activity is reduced. For example, if there are more people out and active within a neighborhood or district, then residents are less likely to commit crimes.
Now back to some positive opportunities for Trinity County, starting with business advocacy. Natural capital involves leveraging a place's unique biodiversity, elevation, or weather to do good or services that can then in turn benefit the surrounding businesses and community. Natural capital does not mean just things for tourists. It also includes timber harvesting and mineral extraction. Natural capital requires a balance with nature to ensure that the ecological services provided are not negatively impacted by humans' use of those resources, which is another way of saying timber harvesting with the forest balancing timber harvesting with the forest's ability to regrow, and monitoring the amount of fishing and water flow levels to ensure that fishing can pursue for years to come. Natural capital is abundant in Trinity County. From its elevation of mountains to lakes, rivers, and streams. The first step of business advocacy should be to build and expand on what's already working well, such as furniture woodworking from timber harvesting, hiking, camping, and some of the world's best fishing and perfect conditions for cannabis cultivation in Trinity County.
Although not in California, the Arts Trails program in New Mexico provides opportunity for artists as well as economic benefits by allowing artists to sell their work while not having to leave their communities. The Arts Trails program helps unify the marketing efforts for all artistic residents. The Weaverville Chamber of Commerce has already done a great job in building a unified awareness around Weaverville in the HGTV Hometown Takeover Challenge video submission, and recently with the COVID response flyers that businesses have been posting in their windows. To take the unified awareness a step further, our research tells us that all 3 chambers of commerce working together on some of these issues and working hard to create both a unified awareness of businesses currently and to help more businesses start and grow would be the natural next step.
All right, to do this, priority should be given to historic preservation. In this picture, we see the Weaverville Historic District, Alexander Hamilton's grandson's house, which was actually the first house in Weaverville, and the only working steam-operated stamp mill in the United States. Our research tells us that better historic preservation will attract new visitors, which can transform a town into a place where people stop instead of just drive by. Creating field trip destinations in the historic district for Trinity County and Shasta County school kids with lunch included at a local restaurant is just one of the ways historic preservation can strengthen the local economy.
Regarding tourism, our research and conversations in the community suggest economic development should build, capitalize, and expand on what already is working well in Trinity County, which is camping, fishing, artisan and hand craftsmanship, cannabis cultivation, and timber harvesting. Regarding the cannabis industry, Trinity County has one of the most ideal ecosystems for cannabis cultivation in the entire world. The combination of elevation, purity of the water, and air are one of the reasons Trinity County is one of the best spots to grow cannabis. Second, an effort should be made to identify what's missing, opportunity business and industries that fit tourists' interests. For example, hot air balloons, centralized processing and fulfillment for artisan and local food community, woodworking, expand the Trinity Lake shoreline, cannabis retail as previously mentioned, and mobile food vending.
All right, so several of the most successful economic development elements we've reviewed leverage something called a public-private partnership. Public-private partnerships involve collaboration between a government agency and one or more private sector companies. They can be used to finance, build, and operate projects such as public transportation networks, parks, large developments, and governmental services that are understaffed.
In addition to developing a mix of infrastructure improvements listed under placemaking, like a parklet to extend the public space where the double curb is located, there are other infrastructure improvements, like the 100% renewable energy from the Trinity Dam. Trinity Dam is an excellent example of natural capital being leveraged for positive economic advantages. Increasing the availability of Trinity Dam's 100% renewable energy to all residents of Trinity County is a great way to expand economic access through affordable and renewable energy. As our society continues to become more connected, there are many emerging technologies, such as driverless cars and satellite internet, like SpaceX's Starlink, that will continue to increase access to Trinity County's economy. Driverless cars may increase the number of tours to Trinity County since the burden of driving from Southern California, the Bay Area, the California coast, and Oregon would be less daunting. SpaceX's Starlink microsatellite network will provide broadband coverage for areas where running wires is not economically feasible. The speed of Starlink is currently testing 2 to 5 times higher than current market internet speeds, and the wait for this technology to reach Trinity County may not be that long. The Starlink microsatellite network is currently in beta, having over 500 satellites already in orbit on their quest for 900 to provide worldwide high-speed internet for as little as $80 per month. High-speed internet becoming widely available is also great for distance learning for school-aged children during the pandemic and adults looking to further their education.
Infill development is the process of developing vacant or underused parcels within an already developed area. Most communities have vacant or underutilized property for a variety of reasons, often because the landowner is sitting on the property waiting for it to gain value, or the previous use was toxic, like a former gas station. There are many places around Trinity County that with infill opportunity sites. Several clusters within Weaverville, Lewiston, and Hayforks business districts. Here's an example from the city of Stockton's infill development, which prioritizes conversion of infill sites into mixed-use buildings. Mixed-use development blends residential, commercial, cultural, institutional, and entertainment uses into one space, or a mix of uses into a single block, where the functions in some way or physically or functionally integrated, and that also provides pedestrian connections. And in addition to infill sites that were previously mentioned on the slides above, these sites would be great for mixed-use development, which can bring affordable housing, new retail, restaurant, and artisan handcraftsmanships to these spaces.
For workforce development and training, efforts should also be made to increase education and training programs in Trinity County. This includes both adding capacity to existing programs and also increasing awareness of what types of trainings are available in Trinity County. In addition to this, pathways to community colleges and universities ought to be prioritized.
Business Improvement District, or BID, is a defined area within which businesses are required to pay an additional tax in order to fund projects within the district's boundaries. The BID is often funded primarily through the levy, but can also draw on other public and private funding streams. Some additional BID services that merchants elect that the local jurisdiction either does not offer or that may have had funding cut. Here are a few examples.
So all of our economic development policies and recommendations we've been talking about can be found on the website I designed entitled Trinity County Economics. And here you find at trinitycountyeconomics.com, we have all the raw data from the jurisdictions we looked at and the original research documents. In addition, we also have 3D models of parklets we designed available for review. There's a great tool to allow you to zoom in and rotate 3D models and really look into them at depth. And currently there are 3 surveys live on the website now. One from the recent Trinity County housing element, housing needs. The second from the local customer survey, and third, a general feedback survey. We're also working on adding some zoning surveys to help determine what uses are currently allowed by right and which require a conditional use permit. So this website's actually live right now. We highly encourage you guys to go over there and look through it, flip through all the pages and see what we've been working on all summer.